Hello there, my friends. This is Candlekeep Mysteries, the Dungeons and Dragons book. I ran this Dungeons and Dragons uh, scenario module. I guess you'd call it that. It's not really a module. It's one of the first adventures in this book, and this book takes place in Candlekeep. Candlekeep. This video is going to be a dungeon master's guide on how to run the first scenario, which is called The Joy of Extradimensional Spaces. So the really clever thing about this book is that each one of the scenarios in this book is about a book. And that's because Candlekeep is basically a library. And they provide a map with this book of Candlekeep. And it's a pretty big map. So it shows you like the entrance doors, and it shows you like the Citadel and the Great Library is where we're taking place. So what I did I'm going to tell you what I did in my adventure. And so if you're a DM, stay tuned. If you don't want to hear any spoilers, well, maybe come back if you haven't played this game. But this is how I ran it. And I think there are some ideas on how to modify the scenario as written. So I placed this map down to kind of like set up the story, and I read like the description of Candlekeep. And the reason that Candlekeep is called Candlekeep is because it's a keep, and because these towers from a distance look like candles on a birthday cake. So that's the idea. So I put this down, and I got the guys to put down their figurines, even though this is not to scale, but just to like show them how they were brought in and they were talked to by one of the people in the castle. And that's how I started out this scenario. But I used, we used the little figures to scale with a map, and there were 2 players and me, basically. So here, there's a little description of Candlekeep, and you can read some of this to your players. This is on page 6 of the book, and it's pretty good. It talks about the reason that it's called Candlekeep. The entrance to Candlekeep is a double gate that stands at the end of the way of the lion, blah, 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 So here it is. It says, those who behold the edifice say it looks nothing so much as a cake, decorated with an overabundance of candles. So basically, the people who work at Candlekeep are called avowed, I suppose, because they take a vow to hang out and be a ward of Candlekeep. And so it says roughly 300 avowed live in Candlekeep. And some of them are keepers of tomes. Some of them just do like housekeeping, that sort of thing. But you got stats for sages and master sages if you want to have a scenario that happens before the main adventure starts or outside of it. But here's the thing. I adapted this because I was running an adventure league. And if you don't know what adventure league is, that is basically a 2 to 3 hour session in our real game, like real live gaming store, LGS, live gaming store, that we volunteer DMs run these scenarios in a certain way. So like they are very like PG rated. They're very accessible to anyone. So the players that I played with were experienced players, but it's designed for anybody to come in and just, maybe it's their first time ever playing, or maybe it's their first time playing a new character, or certainly the first time playing this new scenario or something like that. So the way I did it, I needed to narrow this down because I think that this is supposed to be about 4 hours as played. And the way I did it, it was about 2.5. So I had the avowed come in and basically show them around. Now, in the adventure as written, the avowed talks to the players, and the players are looking for a wizard named Matrius. Okay, so Matrius is a person who's really good at removing curses. So the book suggests that you basically say something like all of the players are from the same town and the town has a curse on it because the elders decided because their crops are failing or it hasn't rained in a while that there's a curse, and they've sent this delegation to Candlekeep to find Matrius to remove the curse. But my idea was, let's make this more personal, right? So I had the two players roll, and whoever got the lowest roll, I determined was going to be cursed. So I said, okay, you're cursed. That's why you're at Candlekeep, because you're trying to find a cure for your curse. And so what was the curse? Well, I thought, what am I going to do? So I said, well, lately I've been like thinking a lot about chocolate. I always think about chocolate. So I said, okay, here's your curse. Your curse is that every 3 days you have to eat 3 pounds of chocolate. And the guy was like, the player was like, well, that's fine. I can just eat 1 pound of chocolate a day. And I said, no. Every 3 days you have to eat 3 pounds of chocolate. You have to eat it all in one sitting, and it's not tasty chocolate. It's like the 90% cocoa powder chocolate. So like, it's bitter and nasty and it's not pleasant. So I thought that would be a little bit funny. And, you're not just sitting around eating Reese's peanut butter cups or Hershey bars. You're actually like eating like baker's chocolate. And so, it's a funny little curse just for like this one shot scenario, right? So basically, they say, we're looking for Matrius to remove this curse from like one of our player characters. So that's a way to like personalize the adventure. So I had the Avowed. I called her Selena Moonglow because my friend, he has written a character creation set in a book. I can put the link in the description to his book. And we created a character, and I created one, and I named her Selena Moonglow because she was a Circle the Moon Druid. So I just used her as the entree to setting up the scenario with Matrius. So basically, when you mention Matrius, she says, hey, yeah, Matrius comes here all the time. In fact, he was just here. He always wants to go to the same room, like whenever he stays here. So she shows you to his room. So you investigate the room, and basically you find this book there. So this book is called The Joy of Extradimensional Spaces, and it has a portrait of Mordenkainen here on the cover. And everybody knows Mordenkainen. He's the title of several of these adventures, one book, D&D 5e book. And anyway, he's a very famous wizard, right? So with an easy Arcana check, you can tell that this is somebody in your party can tell this is Mordenkainen, right? So you open the book, and the book opens a portal. That's how I did it. So like in the scenario, it says that there's a phrase that you have to use to open the portal. I just had the book open the portal. So I didn't want to reveal too much about how to solve the puzzle right away and give the characters too much information. So anyway, the portal appears and then it starts to fade. And so the players are supposed to jump through the portal before it fades. They did in my scenario, but if they don't in yours, you're going to have to get them, just tell them they get sucked into the portal or something. Like you kind of like have to force them to buy into the scenario. Otherwise, there's no scenario. Because what happens is they go into this portal and they're in an extra dimension. And this extra dimension is a mansion. And it's supposed to be a very well adorned but not ostentatious mansion who is basically owned or was created by Fistandia. And Fistandia is a female wizard. And so Matrius discovered Fistandia's mansion, and he's been exploring it. So when the players get into the mansion, they end up here in this hallway, right in area M1 here. So this is a very fun and easy scenario to run. It's easy for the players. It's easy for the DM because all of these locations have a corresponding section of the book that has some stat blocks. It has like descriptions of the room. It has the things that can possibly happen in each one of these scenarios. And some of these I adapted. naturally, because every adventure is different. In fact, I ran this on Saturday. I'm going to run it again on Thursday, and we're going to see how different it is going to be. So I'll do a follow-up video about what happens on Thursday. But yeah, and it's given me ideas on what I might want to change. But anyway, the players end up in M1. They find Matrius standing there with a statuette of a little statue of an imp. And he's holding it. And he's like, yeah, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. And the players, of course, want Matrius to cure him of a curse. And he says, yeah, absolutely, I'll do that. Just hang out here for a second. I'm going to put this down, and we'll talk about it. And he goes through the doorway, and as he does, the doorway closes. And the players don't have any time. You don't give the players enough time to go in after him. You just say the doorway closes. But as it closes, you hear a shriek and a scuffle. And so the players are now trapped in this mansion. And Matrius is back in Candlekeep, but something has happened to Matrius. So the players have to find a way out. So I didn't give more Matrius, and I always want to call him Morpheus, Matrius, enough time to explain to them what to do. So they will find out what to do by either going to the study and reading it in a book or a letter on the desk, or there are 2 homunculi that are here, which my players found immediately, and they can explain that. They need to have a code word to get out. And Fistandio, who basically cast a spell to make this mansion last semi-permanently, she was afraid that people who found it might get stuck in here. So she left clues around the mansion, and she left it in the form of books. And each book has a letter on it, and then you put the letters together and you have a code word. You say the code word, and the portal opens, and then you can get out. So that's the puzzle. That's the big mission. Okay. So that's in the book, but the way you do it is different. So like here at M1, there's a description of the hallway, and that's pretty, much, very standard. There's doors along the highway. There's 5 doors. There's a staircase going up, and there's 2 doors at the end of the hallway. So my players just looked up the staircase, and at the top of the staircase, it says right here at M10 that there is a suit of armor at the top of the staircase. Now, the suit of armor, as described, doesn't do anything, except it has like a helmet and a functional longsword. But other than that, my players just were experienced, so they thought it was animated armor, which you could make it animated armor if you wanted to. But be aware, usually this is a first level mission if you're running this. But since I'm running Adventure League, it's tier 1, and tier 1 can be anything from level 1 to 4. So these guys were 2 4th level characters. So animated armor could easily kill in one shot a first level character. So be aware of that if you're going to run it as animated armor. But anyway, they looked up there and they were like, we're not ready to fight that yet. Let's try this first door. And they tried this door to the right of it. So all these locations are numbered like M1, 2, 3, 4, 5, assuming that people are going to go from left to right. That's not what happened. In this case, they went right into M6, and M6 is the kitchen. In the kitchen, they find 2 homunculi, and they're named Cumin and Coriander, which is so cute. That's just the way they were named in the book. And they're, basically servants, cooks, butler, valet, clean the place, like the whole thing. And they take care of this place for Fistandio when she's not here. So you can interrogate them. So this is perfect because instead of just exposition reading it out of the book, you can they wanted one of them to come around and give them the tour. And so that's what I let them do. And so I think it was Coriander. Yeah, Cumin stayed back because he was cooking, and Coriander went around with them. So with the players. So I had like kind of a formal voice for them, tuxedo wearing homunculi, and they were very formal because this is a mansion after all. So they had something to eat. They really liked the way it smelled. They went immediately. I told them that there's a pantry here and a dining room. They went immediately into the dining room. So the dining room is a trick, right? The dining room actually has a mimic chair in it. So basically, there are table settings around the dining room, but one chair is in the corner where it should be at the table. So that's, for anybody that knows about mimics, you think the one in the corner is the mimic, but it actually is the one closest to the door. So you're supposed to, like, I let them like investigate the chair in the corner first, but then, and I didn't immediately attack them with the mimic because it gave them some time to like look out the windows over here at the Arboretum and give them a sense of like the space. But then eventually I did have the mimic attack. And so they attacked the mimic and they were able to subdue it. There's 20 gold pieces worth of silverware in here, but they have the homunculus with them. So they weren't going to thieve right in front of the homunculus because he would protest. So then he takes them, they defeat the mimic. He takes them out into the Arboretum. And in the Arboretum, there are 2 invisible fairy dragons that basically just like blow their fairy breath at them and make them laugh with a wisdom saving throw penalty. And it's just for atmosphere. And also there are 2 drift globes out here, which are basically like big glowing globes that light and the plants and keep the plants going at night. They're basically like grow lights, basically. And the drift globes become the reward at the end of the adventure, one of the rewards, because in Adventure League, there's always like a magical object that is given to the players, almost always, as a reward for playing, and it's an incentive to play, and every player gets that reward. So they all got 2 drift globes, and in Adventure League, everybody gets the same amount of loot. So if you find something that's worth 20, like if they had taken the silverware, it was worth 20 gold pieces, each and every character will get 20 gold pieces, so it's not divided amongst them, which was something new for the one player who never had played Adventure League before, because in other sessions of D&D, they actually split the gold, right? The party splits the gold among themselves. But anyway, they're out there, and there's herbs and there's vegetables. There's nothing really here, except you can see that the whole mansion is surrounded by this whitish purple miasma, this energy field. And if you try to like get outside of it, you're basically going to run into an energy wall, and it's not going to be good for you. So that is emphasized basically when you get to the Arboretum and you see the outside. So these guys came back in, they searched the pantry. There's not much in the pantry. Also, some of the doors in the descriptions here, the doors are left open, ajar, some of them, so that the cats, it says the cats can come in and out. So I made up several cats, and one of the guys wanted to feed the cats. So if you feed a cat, the cat will follow you around until there's danger. Then the cat will hiss and run away. And the cat can be used as a companion. It can be used as like, flavor, color for the narrative, but it could also be used as a warning, for the players that something's not right in one of the particular rooms, right? So the cats I named like the white cat Sugar, and there was a black cat we named Pepper, and there was a brown cat we named Cinnamon. And so I kept it with the theme of cumin and coriander, even though none of that is written here. And we had little figurines for cats. And I happen to have little like rubber duck kind of looking things and a squirrel. I didn't have any cats, but the guys got the idea. So, it's kind of cool like to have, like, it's always cool to like have animals in your scenarios because people have soft spots for animals, right? So, and it gives it some flavor. It makes it like a lived in place, right? Anyway, these guys investigate the pantry and they find like a golden spoon that is specifically used just to feed one particular persnickety cat who won't eat anything unless it's off the golden spoon. I made that up. I think I made that up just for, fun. The spoon was there in the pantry, or did I put that there? Yeah, I think I just put that there. Yeah. So anyway, that was fun. So I made that up, and then so they come back out and they start investigating the rest of this first floor. This is the first floor. This is the upper floor, and this is the lower floor. They go into the study and they find their first book, right? And they find their first puzzle book. So in the scenario, the key word is liberty, which is enough that different types of letters, each book has one letter on it. And it has a picture of Fistandia on the cover. And I made them white books so they would stand out. White leather, and then there's nothing on any of the pages. They're all blank, and just on the spine, it has the letter, which is the clue to the puzzle. And so instead of liberty, just in case anybody had played this scenario before, I made it freedom, because I gave them the first letter is E, the second letter would be R, and the third letter would be E. They're not going to be able to figure it out because, there's so many words you can make with those letters. So at least they would be able to go on. So there is a secret door in the study, and my players found the secret door, but by pulling a book off of the lowest left-hand corner of a bookcase, and but they didn't go downstairs right away. They left the secret door until they investigated the rest of this room, and I thought that was interesting, an interesting choice. So anyway, they went all the way down to the they went to the next door, and the next door is an exercise room, right? So in the exercise room, there is like daggers and wooden staves, and it looks like a training room. There's a training dummy, but there's also an animated broom, which is just sweeping the floor. And if they leave the broom alone, this is written in the scenario, if they leave the broom alone, nothing happens. But they couldn't do that. So the one guy tries to grab the broom, and the broom attacks. And it attacks twice. So it did a little sweep across the guy's face, and it hit him hard. He had 31 hit points, and I think this thing hit him for 14. So, he was hurting. So what I did was, and then they took care of the broom. Coriander gasps. He's never seen this happen before. I made a cabinet. I invented a cabinet with 2 healing potions in it and a scroll of greater healing, just so he could get back his hit points, and because I was going to have other monsters they were going to encounter. In fact, the very next room they go into is the library, and they find a book there, and they also find this monster, which is a swarm of animated books. And the swarm of animated books pushes one of the bookcases down on top of them. They have to make a saving throw or be trapped under the bookcase. One character was trapped, and he could not get out from under that bookcase. The other character is trying to fight this thing. He does. I made the book that they needed to get the elbow of the monster. So they basically had to deal with the monster in order to get the book. So they get the book, and then they go out to area M2, and there's really nothing there. And then they decide to go up the steps instead of going through the secret door. So they go up, but they go back, and they get the other homunculus. So they get Cumin to come with them, and Coriander, they switch places. Well, they eat first to heal up, and then they take a short rest. They keep the healing potions. And then, and so they have a nice meal in the dining room. They hang out. They enjoy the luxury of it. They feed a cat. The cat follows them. So then they go up the steps, and they're expecting to have to beat up this suit of armor. But the reason the suit of armor there is to draw their attention. If they roll a perception check, I made them roll. It says in the book if they have passive wisdom, they can pass. But I made them roll, and they both failed. They could see a secret passage crawl space above the suit of armor, but they failed on that. So they went up and they went to the right. They did take the helmet and the suit of armor with them. I'm sorry, not the suit of armor, the good sword with them. They went to area 14, which is a trophy room. A flying sword attacks them. They get a puzzle book. They get another letter in the puzzle. Oh, and my puzzle, the word was freedom. That's the word that I used. So I gave them the vowels, I gave them the R, and then I gave them the D, F, and M, and then they could figure it out. The next one was the bedroom. There's a cat on the bed. Animal handling check. If you want to get the cat not to be frightened of you. There's a balcony. It looks back down on the arboretum, so these guys have to make a wisdom saving throw or start laughing again. So they start laughing again, but they never did figure out why they were laughing. There were invisible dragons there, but so that was kind of fun and innocent. And then they go back to this room M11. Well, M11 is a laboratory, and there's a star map there. Actually, these guys were searching the bedroom, and they were really looking hard for something. So according to the scenario written as it is, you don't find the star map, which is the key to the puzzle in the observatory room, until you go into the alchemist lab. But I'm sorry, not the laboratory. But I made the map, the star map, be underneath the bed because the one guy was searching under the bed. And I was like, well, it's a shame for him not to find something. And he did roll like a 20. So I moved the star map from here to here. So then they were a little confused by that, and they thought they needed to do something with it immediately. But I had Cumin say, oh, there's a observatory over here, so don't worry about that, just yet. And so that helped that there was an NPC along with them. So be aware of that too, because you kind of have to kind of guide your characters sometimes, or they'll get stuck looking for a puzzle that doesn't exist, especially when there are a lot of puzzles in this scenario. Anyway, they go to the laboratory, they find some more potions, they find a book on the desk. Then they go to the planetarium, which is really cool. The way the planetarium is described, it's an extra-dimensional space. In fact, the door opens into a dark open space offering a view of the starry firmament of the night sky. 5 telescopes mounted on bronze plates point towards the constellations above. In the middle of the space, a 1-foot diameter sphere of crystal sits in a circular brass stand. So this is the puzzle, right? So on the map, there are 5 stars that are bigger, drawn bigger, and in silver, and different, I said different colors. So you don't almost see silver and red or silver and blue. How stars almost have colors, or planets have colors. So each one of the telescopes corresponds to a star on the map. If they align them correctly, the light from them enters the crystal and projects onto the other wall, revealing the door to the observatory, right? So the other way to get to the observatory, reveals a secret door that goes from the observatory into Area 13, which is a chained library. And you can access it by solving the puzzle, or if they had found the secret passage, would have given it to them, the one that was above the suit of armor. So anyway, it's I described it like Indiana Jones, in the map room kind of thing with the light and everything. So they open that door and they get in there, and there's this really tough monster. It's a chained library. It's basically a big shelf cabinet with a big chain on it, and the chain has a book on the end, and it's like a flail, and it's trying to hit them with the flail and restrain them. So they didn't stay in the room with it. They grabbed the book. See, I was going to make them have to defeat it, but then they were smart enough to try to stay on the side of the door, because the way I described the animated the chain library was, it was too big to get through the door. So these guys were being smart, and they were using terrain to their advantage. So I let them do that, but I let them get the puzzle book, because they needed the puzzle book to get another clue to what the puzzle was. So they didn't end up defeating the chained library, and that's a shame, because the other reward is that chain and book is basically like a +1 flail, and that was going to be their reward. So instead, I made the armor, the helmet +1, and I made the +1 to AC, and I made the sword that they took a +1 sword. So I did it that way. So they basically got 3 rewards for playing this scenario, 3 magic items. Anyway, that exhausts the top floor, and so then they were ready to go through the secret door through the study in order to go down to the bottom floor. So they did, and down there, there's one thing I would change. They went down and they got to Area 18, and Area 18 is basically like a storeroom, but it's also a summoning room, right? So there's magic circle on the ground, and it smells like sulfur and that sort of thing. And it says here, the current resident of the room is a quasit in toad form. So I did that. I ran the scenario like that. But the way I'm going to run it on Thursday is the quasit is going to be in cat form, because we already set up the cats, right? So the cats are going in and out of the doors on the first floor. There's a cat on Fistandia's bed in the bedroom, which is and they're all normal cats. And this one, there's a cat and on a shelf, and it's going to jump at them and change back into a quasit and attack them. The quasits are pretty low in hit points, so it shouldn't be hard for them to deal with. But why not make it a cat instead of a toad, right? Because we've already lulled them into a false sense of security about cats, and now we can throw that at them as a surprise. So that's what I'm going to do on Thursday when I run this. Okay, and then over here there's a menagerie that has a bunch of like stuff in formaldehyde jars, and if they open one, this like slad tadpole comes at them. That was kind of gross. They didn't like that. And then there's also a possibility for some crawling claws with some like severed hands. I'm not going to really do that. I didn't do it for the 2 guys, like middle-aged guys that were playing. I'm not going to do that for like possible kids that are going to be playing the scenario on Thursday, because I got the family-friendly table. So the last room and the final room, and I know this is going on, and I think it goes on a little too long. I really do think this adventure could have been shortened or 2 parts, but there were only 2 of them, and they were speeding it along, and they know how to do a dungeon. So I might actually do away even with a couple of the rooms or the last floor and make the code word shorter. And that's the nice thing about having it be freedom, is that I could make it freed or free. So anyway, the last room, they find the last book, and it is an alchemical laboratory. There's a puzzle book, and they also find some more healing potions there. So that's nice. And they found 8 reagents worth 50 gold. So basically, if they complete the whole adventure, so they put all the puzzle books together. They're writing down the words. They say the word freedom. And I said, well, you hear this magic like tinkling of like chimes above you, meaning that the doorway has appeared in the hallway where it did when they first entered. So they run up and they dive through, and they're like, goodbye, cumin, goodbye, coriander, goodbye, cats. And they like run through, which they're supposed to. So basically they get almost 100 gold if they like get all the treasure. There was like a letter opener in the study they could take as well. They get the magic sword, they get the magic armor, they get the drift globes at the end of the scenario. But the resolution of the scenario is they go through from the mansion into Candlekeep, into the room where they find Matrius dead, and they find that the imp is actually, according to this scenario, invisible and still in the room. But I just say he's gone. And the curse is not lifted from the player character who has it. And they have to continue the mission at a later date. And that's the resolution. So it's not a happy, everything's tied in a nice little bow ending. It leaves it open for a second adventure. And then when you read the next book, in this adventure in this book, you can tie it in there if you have the same players, or you can just like let it be. And so that's how I did this and ran this scenario. I hope this helps you. If you're a dungeon master and you have any questions, let me know. If you're a new dungeon master, don't worry. Nothing is a mistake. You can make mistakes. You can cover up for them. You can do things to get your way out of them. You can change the scenario. These are guidelines, guys. You don't have to do everything here verbatim. You can make up your own stuff. I actually was thinking about running this where each one of the rooms was a totally different environment. One was going to be a sailing ship. And then they open another door and you can see snow coming from it. It was going to be a mountain where there's snow giants. You can do whatever you want in these. That's the great thing about Dungeons and Dragons. It can be different every time. So anyway, thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great day. If you if you have any questions, let me know. I answer my comments. And thanks for subscribing. 13,844 subscribers, I think, as of right now. So if you want to see more, let me know. I'll talk to you on the next one. Take care.